Hello, everybody, and either welcome or welcome back to my podcast. As always, if you do like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. So this was just the week of controversies. Controversies everywhere, all over the place, at all times this past week. But let's go ahead and start now with news that is actually breaking right now, which is that Trump has decided to make an announcement that he has come up with a plan that he thinks he would like as far as the border wall slat do-gibber is concerned. And just as a quick little recap of what his proposed plan is, it's $800 million in humanitarian aid, $805 million for drug detection, 2,750 border agents, 75 new immigration judges, Central American minors applying for asylum back at home, $5.7 billion for the steel wall, and in exchange for all that, you would get a 3-year extension, for lack of a better word, on DACA and TPS, which I don't really like any plan that involves a wall, and this is a lot of fucking money that we really don't have. But from what it seems, and a lot of the details, on this have already leaked out before the announcement, and the response from Democrats seems to have been that this is a no-go for them. So again, I don't know really what's going to happen. Apparently McConnell's supposed to be bringing this to the Senate floor on Tuesday. Obviously they're closed on Monday because it's Martin Luther King Day anyway, but well, I guess we'll see what happens on this next week. We'll talk about it more next week, I'm sure, because I don't know. I don't like the wall. I don't like spending all this money, but obviously Trump is willing to keep the government shut down until he gets something of what he wants. So, yeah, next week will be very, very interesting. But moving backwards from controversies that will be to controversies that were, let's go ahead and start at the one that everybody wants to discuss, and that's the stupid, dumb-ass Gillette ad, which, if you have not seen it by this point, I'll put a link in the show notes. I mean, I'm sure everybody who's even remotely interested in looking at it at this point has looked at it, but it's this, I guess, supposed to be ad. I mean, I assume that, advertising, the whole point of it is to sell products, and obviously Gillette sells razors and razor accessories to men, but it's this whole, toxic masculinity. Men do better. Men expect better of other men. If you see guys doing things that are a little shady, you should stop them, and you should be a better man. And kind of, I know everybody probably knows by this point, the Gillette tagline's always been the best a man can get. And they start it with is this really the best we can get? Could we do better? It's oh my God. But yeah, it's so stupid and preachy, and it's been the response to it has been exactly what you would think it would be, but something that I think got kind of skewed along the way as far as addressing this topic publicly is this idea that anybody got outraged over the commercial, and there's been plenty of people who have done think pieces asking, why are you outraged over this commercial? It's just a commercial telling men that you should be better men. What's the big deal about that? And I'm okay, first of all, nobody was fucking outraged. Everybody's annoyed. There's a big difference there. I don't watch that ad and be oh my God, I am so fucking pissed right now. I'm just God damn it, really? And as far as I can see, everybody that I follow, everybody that I listen to has had kind of the same response of just being really, Gillette? Really? Did you really have to go there? Because it's annoying. It's it's stupid. Why did you even do this? What was the point? What was the point you were trying to make? What was a man supposed to get out of this commercial? I don't get it. I don't think it inspired any men to go buy razors or shave cream or anything of that sort. I don't get it. And that's where I think everybody's at. Honestly, I don't think anybody was actually outraged. what I have seen, especially from a lot of men, because I mean, this is an ad targeted towards men, is that kind of that level of annoyance, but also in a more personal fashion, because you're basically like, you're being insulted. Like, you're basically being told that you're not good enough and you should buy this product and you should be a better person. And now, if you're a woman, this is going to sound a little familiar to you because you're used to being advertised to in that fashion. And I touched on this last week on Jesse Singal's tweet thread where he made this same point, and this whole controversy completely proves him 100% correct in that you cannot advertise to men the same way you advertise to women. Like, you can't do that. You need to fix yourself. There's something wrong with you. Because if you try to pitch that to a man's just going to be like, well, you can go fuck yourself. How about that? And that's pretty much been the response from men. Like, I've not seen or heard any man who's watched that commercial and was like, you know what? I do need to be a better person. And I need to start buying Gillette razors. Yes. Yes, thank you, Gillette. I did not see this in myself until you pointed it out. I feel so much better about myself as a man now. And I'm going to be a better man. And I'm not going to embrace toxic masculinity anymore. Like, that didn't fucking happen. I just don't. Like, all you did was piss off your customer base, which I thought was the exact opposite of what you wanted to do in advertising. I thought you wanted to make your customers feel good about your products, not feel shitty about your products. I don't know. But one point I do want to make before I leave out of this conversation, because this is something that occurred to me, and I've not seen anybody else talk about it, but it was like, once this occurred to me, I started laughing hysterically at this commercial, and that is the idea that corporate advertising is where movements go to die. Like, you all know this, you've all seen this, especially if you are of a certain age. If you remember the 90s, like, you remember when everything was extreme and edgy and all that stuff, and like, corporate advertising just all centered around that idea of taking that idea and like co-opting it into a marketing strategy. And I think that's what just happened to the whole toxic masculinity, somewhat Me Too movement. It was more of a toxic masculinity thing than a Me Too thing. But once corporations seize upon your movement and start using it to try to sell product, your movement has jumped the shark. Like, you're done. Like, that's it. Like, now you're just a cheap marketing ploy at this point. So once you start looking at it like that, it becomes incredibly fucking funny to look at that commercial, because it's like, now anybody who mentions toxic masculinity or any of that shit, it's like, yeah, you're a talking point now. And in fact, you're a talking point that's been co-opted by corporate America to try to sell razors to men. Like, you're done. Like, that kills any kind of actual like street cred a movement has when corporate America says, yes, we approve of your message and we're going to use it to sell things. So now it's just like, I kind of went from being annoyed by the commercial to being very amused by the commercial. So anyway, moving on from the stupid, dumb fucking Gillette commercial that everybody's already discussed to death. But anyway, moving on. The second controversy of the week, and this is also another one of taking a movement and completely just tanking it and having it jump the shark. The Women's March is happening probably still as I'm recording this. I'm recording this on a Saturday afternoon on January 19th, which is the day that they're doing the third annual Women's March in DC and in various other places across the country. But to back that up a little bit, it was either Monday or Tuesday. I want to say it was Monday. Tamika Mallory and Bob Bland went on The View. And just as a side note, in case you guys don't follow this and you're a little confused right now, Bob Bland is a woman, like a bio woman. She just changed her name to Bob Bland because I don't know why. But anyway, she's a woman. Tamika Mallory, obviously a woman, went on The View. And I've talked about this a lot on this podcast. So if you listen to me, you probably already know about the anti-Semitism controversy within the Women's March, and especially as it pertains to Tamika and Linda Sarsour and some of the other people in the movement, leaders of the movement, who have both said some pretty anti-Semitic things and have also refused to distance themselves from Louis Farrakhan, or at least his anti-Semitic remarks. So, Tamika and Bob go on The View, and they're getting questioned, and a couple of the other ladies ask questions because, like, I know Joy Behar is Jewish. I think Whoopi Goldberg is Jewish. I don't think any of the other women on the panel are Jewish. But Meghan McCain was actually the one to really ask the question of Tamika, like, do you condemn what Louis Farrakhan has said as far as, like, his anti-Semitic remarks? And she basically, Tamika, dodged the question by saying a bunch of nonsense about, like, that's not how I speak, and he doesn't speak for me, blah, 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 blah. But she, like, straight up refused to condemn Farrakhan's anti-Semitic remarks. Now, here's what blows my fucking mind about this. Like, okay, you're going on a television show that has millions upon millions upon millions of viewers. And you have to know that you are going to be asked that question about Farrakhan and his remarks. To not have a better statement prepared to answer that question, like, what the fuck were you thinking? And what's so crazy about it is, like I said, I've talked about this controversy a lot. It's a controversy that's very well known within certain circles, but it is kind of a bit of inside ball. Like, it's not something that was widely known. Or at least it wasn't until Tamika went on The View, and now literally millions and millions and millions of people who did not know this was a controversy now know it's a controversy. Like, I can't remember the last time I saw somebody shoot themselves in the foot that fucking badly. Like, now everybody knows. Like, everybody who watches The View, and even people who don't watch The View, like, this surfaced the story to way more people than who knew about it before. So I don't know who is in charge of doing PR for the Women's March, but they fucking suck at it. So that happened. Everybody kind of finds out about the anti-Semitism controversy. I know I said last week that Southern Poverty Law Center had pulled out. They pulled out prior to this. After The View kind of debacle, the DNC pulled out of the DC March. They are no longer sponsoring it. And not a single 2020 candidate for the Democrats, which, to point out right now, the field of people who have announced and people who are strongly expected to announce is very heavily female. Not a single one of them went to the DC March. None. That is crazy when you think about it. Like, before this blew up, I mean, that would be, like, it would be a no-brainer to go, especially if you're a woman and you're a Democrat and you're planning on announcing for 2020. Like, that would almost be a requirement to show up at the DC March. But nobody went. And I know Gillibrand went to one of the local marches. I want to say Iowa, but I don't think that's right. But she didn't go to DC. She went to one of the local marches and got a lot of shit for that on social media. So I'm blown away by this. I'm still blown away by how you just tank a movement that fucking quickly. There's like one media appearance where you had to know that question was coming and you weren't prepared for it. And now your brand is toxic and nobody wants to touch it anymore. And now everybody is looking at you guys like you're a bunch of anti-Semitic freaks. And it's just like, I don't get it. How the fuck do you do that? Like, that's wild. I don't even know what to say about that, but other than to say, you took a story that was medium and made it fucking huge, and now, like, nobody wants to be associated with the Women's March. Like, I saw lots of comments on Twitter and on other various social medias of people who said that they were planning on going to marches and now aren't, especially the DC March, because, I mean, the DC March is like the quote-unquote official march. Like, there's other marches that go on in different cities, obviously, but like DC was always considered the march. And there's been plenty of people who are like, I was going to go, but now I'm not going to go because of this. And yeah, it was wild. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a movement implode quite that quickly. It was quite something to watch. But moving on from that to the latest controversy, and by latest, I mean started Thursday night and wrapped up yesterday. So, Thursday night, like around 10:15-ish in the evening, just think about that because it's kind of important, BuzzFeed drops a piece saying that they have this bombshell report that Trump told Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about the Trump Tower in Moscow thing, which, if you haven't been following this, let me try to back this up and give you a little bit of a backstory. Michael Cohen was one of Trump's lawyers, and during the campaign and allegedly after it, it's very sketchy as to what went down when, because nobody's being entirely truthful about this. Apparently, Trump Organization was trying to negotiate with the Russian government, because that's what you have to do to build things in Russia. They were negotiating with the Russian government to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Now, I'm sure everybody can imagine that when you have to go through the Russian government, no matter what you may happen to think of Putin or anything like that, this isn't anything about that, but I'm sure you can imagine, like, when you have to get their permission to do things in Russia, you're probably going to have to engage in some shady shit. Like, you're going to have to, like, slide somebody some money. You're going to have to pay some people off. It was rumored that Putin was promised a penthouse suite in Trump Tower, Moscow, if it ever got built. But anyway, they never got the project off the ground. And Trump has been of various sort of stances on this, as to it didn't happen, and then it did happen, but I didn't know anything about it, and then I knew about it, and it's like, it's one of those ones where Trump's stance has been very evolving. But it seems like what did end up happening is they got to the letter of intent stage, and that's pretty much where it fizzled out. It seems like they couldn't really get the financing that they needed to build the tower. Anyway, everybody's been making hay about this over the Russian collusion thing, like this is some kind of proof of collusion. Trump is, his stance right now, as of recording, I mean, it shifts on a regular basis, is that he's still pursuing business deals during the campaign because, I mean, he wasn't sure he was going to win. In fact, it seems like he pretty much expected, like the rest of us, that he was going to lose. And so, of course, you're still planning on that contingency and that you're still, like, going to be in business. And so he would have, if he'd have lost, he'd have gone back to Trump Organization and gone back to business as usual. So during the campaign, Trump Organization was still operating as if he would be coming back to it and not being president of the United States. So anyway, that's the backstory on that. What happened is Michael Cohen was summoned to testify before Congress, and he lied about the time frame as to when all of this happened, as far as the negotiations, when they started, when they ended. Apparently they ended a lot later than what Michael Cohen had presented them as having ended. So Michael Cohen lies to Congress. Okay. I forget exactly what his legal status is right now. It's so hard to keep up with all the people that were part of the 2016 Trump campaign, as far as who's in jail, who's indicted, who's been charged. I think Cohen has been charged. I don't think he's in jail yet. I don't think he's quite on Manafort status yet. I could be wrong. Like I said, it's very hard to keep track of all of this. But anyway, the rumor has always been on this that if you can prove that Trump instructed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress, that would be obstruction of justice and therefore would be an impeachable offense. And I do agree, if you can find that evidence that Trump instructed Cohen to lie to Congress, then yes, that is an impeachable offense because it is obstruction. Like, you can't instruct people to lie to Congress. Like, that's not, no, you can't do that. So anyway, that's the backstory on that. So Buzzfeed drops this piece saying that they have proof that Trump did indeed instruct Michael Cohen to lie to Congress. Here's the problem. In the piece, nobody is on record by name. There's two anonymous sources who say that they have seen text messages, emails, stuff like that, that prove that Trump instructed Cohen to lie to Congress. And that's it. That's what they ran with. And it is of dubious kind of stance right now as to whether the reporters in question actually saw any of this evidence or not. You had one person go on TV yesterday and say, no, we did not see the evidence. The other writer, because there's two writers on the piece, one says that yes, we did see the evidence. So somebody's lying, because it can't be both. And I read the piece yesterday, and a lot of people, including yours truly, went on Twitter to point out that this piece is not the bombshell that you're portraying it to be. Like, if this is all you've got, then you really just kind of fucked up by running this. And BuzzFeed's response has been interesting. Like, okay, so the piece dropped, and it dropped after I went to bed that Thursday night. So Friday morning, I read it. I'm like, okay, this is a nothing burger. Like, what? There's nothing here. Like, what? Two anonymous people who won't go on record by name told you a thing, and so you just ran with it? Like, what the fuck kind of stupid ass reporter does that? Like, what? I was like, who approved this? Who thought this was a good idea? But anyway, so people start questioning the piece. And old Ben Smith, hashtag, BuzzFeed Ben, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed News, goes out in public. And this is like a masterclass of how not to respond to criticism of a piece on your publication when you are the editor-in-chief. He goes out and says that everybody who is criticizing this piece is some kind of Trump promoter who just can't handle the fact that this could possibly be true. And basically, you're all a bunch of haters and losers, and shut up, stop questioning our piece. Which is not the thing that you want to say when people are having legitimate questions about your piece. And I didn't really, okay, I'll take that back. I did see some people be mean about it. I tried not to be mean about it, but I'm like, I've got questions. Like, if this is all you've got, I hope to God you have something more than what you presented in this piece, because otherwise, nah. So, what happens after that is that Mueller's office, special counsel, releases a statement about the piece. Now, one thing that can be said for Mueller's office, Robert Mueller, he is the special counsel that's investigating the Russia collusion thing, they do not speak to the public at all. They do not leak information. They do not give statements. They do not acknowledge things in public. They don't talk to anybody. They released a statement, and I want to pull up the statement because this is wild. And I think it's important to, I need to tell you the full text of the statement so that the rest of the story kind of starts to make sense. BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. And that is from an official spokesperson from Robert Mueller's office. Now, anybody who's being intellectually honest and has half a brain can read between the lines on this statement because, of course, they're trying to keep this professional. It's special counsel's office. It's an official spokesperson. You don't want to, just pop off at the mouth and say whatever. But it's pretty clear that they are saying that this piece is a lie. This is coming from Robert Mueller's office officially, saying that what is in this piece is not accurate. So, what does BuzzFeed Ben do? He goes out in public again and says that if Mueller's office wants to say that specific parts of this story aren't true, they need to point out the ones that are not true. Which, dude, no, they fucking don't. That's your job as an editor and as a publication to prove your work. It's not Mueller's office's job to pick apart your fucking work and tell you where you got it wrong. No, that ain't their job, dude. And to even go out in public and suggest that is like, what the fuck? Like, what profession do you think you're in? Like, you're the editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed News. You don't get to just go out and say that, oh, well, guess what? You need to fact check the piece that we put out. No, they fucking don't. But no, it gets worse. Like this, it doesn't stop there. So, Mueller's office puts that out. We all take it for what it clearly is, which is that Mueller's office is saying that this piece is not correct for whatever reason. Gosh, how do I even say this? Basically, they have quadrupled down at this point and have said once again that upon further review of the piece, that we still stand by the piece and there will be more information forthcoming. Dude, no there won't, because you don't have any. Listen, if you had the goods, you would have put it in the original piece. You wouldn't do like this little drip drab thing where people question the integrity of your organization before you give everybody the real story. Like, that's not how this fucking works. Like, if BuzzFeed really had dead ass proof that Donald Trump told Michael Cohen to lie to Congress, they would have said so off the rip. The fact that this story, as it originally ran the way it did, tells me that you ain't got shit. You have nothing, and you're asking Mueller's office to cover your ass, first of all, to point out the parts that are inaccurate, which this is an ongoing investigation. They're not going to tell you what the hell they know. Like, what the fuck kind of ask is that anyway? And then to come out and be like, oh, we have more information. It's coming, though. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe you should have waited till after that information, if it even exists, was in your possession before you ran the fucking story. Like, this isn't a game. This is not like just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. And here's kind of my bigger commentary on this altogether, and that is that BuzzFeed, I mean, people make fun of BuzzFeed, we'll talk about that in a minute, but BuzzFeed News is trying to be an actual, like, legit news organization, and to be fair, they have had scoops before, especially on the Russia investigation. That being said, you cannot make a mistake like this and maintain credibility within your organization and have people take you seriously. You can't, I can't even call this a rookie move. Like, I don't even know what to call this. And as far as people questioning the piece, the other reason people were questioning the piece is, like I said, two authors, Anthony Cormier and Justin Leopold. Now, Anthony Cormier has won a Pulitzer Prize. Justin Leopold has been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. Leopold has actually had Russiagate scoops for BuzzFeed before. Here's the problem with Leopold. He's also been caught fabricating information and has actually gotten fired from another publication for making shit up, to put not too fine a point of it. So, you've got this thinly sourced piece with an author on it who, for all of his good points, has been caught making up information before. You might want to take a step back and try not to hit back at people who are criticizing your piece for very valid reasons. That's just me. Just a thought. That's just a little bit of advice for BuzzFeed. Like, maybe you should have taken a step back and at least said nothing. Like, to say nothing would have been better than what Ben Smith did. So, that's where we're at with that. I mean, BuzzFeed is still standing by the story, at least as of this recording. I don't see that standing. I mean, I'm wondering when this is going to get retracted. Another thing that I am kind of wondering, and especially in relationship to the fact that BuzzFeed was the only news outlet to run the Steele dossier, which I'm sure everybody remembers for the P-tape allegations, even though the Steele dossier had been shopped to plenty of other news organizations who declined to touch it. I'm wondering if over the next couple of days we're not going to start seeing other organizations and other journalists come out and say that this story was shopped to them too. And to that point, Ronan Farrow, who I guess now that we don't have to run baseless smear allegations on Kavanaugh anymore, has put his responsible journalist hat back on, tweeted out and said that this story was presented to him and he chose to not run with it because he had heard not only this particular story, but also stories that contradicted this particular story. So he declined to touch it. I'm wondering how many other journalists we're going to see come forward with that sort of same story. Remains to be seen. I wouldn't be shocked if it was quite a few. Because this smacks to me like a story that was looking for a home. And it found one. And this is the kind of story that would find a home someplace. But if it comes out that, like, say, this was pitched to, I don't know, CNN or MSNBC or CBS or ABC or any of the big stations, and they passed on it, but BuzzFeed ran it again after the Steele dossier thing, I don't know how you come back from that. I mean, once you've been burned twice, now the knock against you is going to always be like, okay, well, is this real, or is this just something that you want to run because it fits your particular narrative of what you want to happen? Like, are you really a serious news organization, or are you just trying to push a particular narrative and you'll run anything that comes across an editor's desk that fits in with your particular narrative? And as I'm saying all that, it kind of strikes me that maybe I'm being a little unfair to BuzzFeed on this, because I mean, this is kind of where modern journalism is right now. And I had made a tweet about this, and I'll go ahead and make the point here. I don't have a problem with BuzzFeed per se, and I don't like Trump, but I do have a huge problem with the level of journalism that is being practiced, especially since Trump has become president, where it's not journalism, it's activism. And I have a huge fucking problem with that. Like, that's not okay. Like, don't put yourself out there as a news source if you're not going to be a news source, if you're going to just be advocacy. And if you want to be advocacy, fine. Say so. Don't pretend like you're not. Like don't be CNN. Don't pretend and do this stupid apple banana bullshit when it's obvious that you have a certain slant that you want to push. And this is why I kind of don't give a lot of shit to Fox News, because yes, they have a slant that they're pushing. They're not pretending like they don't, though. They're not pretending to be like this unbiased source. Like, they're blatantly conservative. Okay. I mean, as long as you're honest about it and everybody knows and everybody can be just like above board about it, I don't have as much of a problem with that. I have a problem with the CNNs and the MSNBCs and BuzzFeeds of the world who are pretending to be objective when you're fucking not. Like, just drop the pretense. We all see it. Like, we all see through it. Just drop it and just be liberal. Okay, fine. You're the fucking liberal news network. What the fuck ever. Be that. Cater to your audience. Get your numbers. Get your money. Whatever. Fine. But on the topic of money, and this was something that I saw a lot of people say, and that's the idea of like, LOL, it's BuzzFeed. Like, what did you expect? Okay. Yes, BuzzFeed runs their dumbass listicles and polls and pieces about avocado toast and what kitchen utensils to buy and just stupid shit like that. But they also do have actual like news divisions, and it's not just Buzzfeed. Like, I know a lot of people give Vox shit for this, they give Vice shit for this. I mean, here's the thing. There is... Now, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. Basically, as a news outlet right now, you have two ways of funding yourself. You can either go the nonprofit model, and you can have like a foundation that sponsors you, or you can do like paywall stuff, you can do like donation drives, stuff like that. Or you can do what a lot of these online-only publications have to do, and that's make stupid fucking clickbait in order to get clicks, in order to make money from advertisers to sponsor their actual, like, good content. And for what it's worth, like I said, this particular piece just fell flat for BuzzFeed, and a lot of it's their own fault. They have done really good work in the past. Like, so does Vox, so does Vice. And it's just like, everybody wants to slam them for doing the thing that, sadly enough, they have to do to make money. Like, I wish, as far as Vox is concerned, like, I wish Daryl Lynn's work brought in as much money for them as, like, one of Ezra Klein's dumbass hot takes does. Like, I really wish it did. But the thing is, like, the dumbass hot takes are what bring people in and what makes them money to fund the good shit. So, I hate it for them, and if you want to be pissed off at anybody for this particular model, go be pissed off at old Gawker, because they're the ones that started this shit. So, I will go on anti-Gawker rants until the day I fucking die, because as far as I'm concerned, they ruined online journalism. Like, the reason that it is the way it is because of Gawker. I will stand by that, and I hate it for every news outlet and organization and website that has to participate in that bullshit in order to fund their good shit. And each platform does have its good shit. So I'm not entirely down with this whole idea of bashing BuzzFeed because of the shit that gets the most clicks. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, that's the business, sadly enough. Like, it sucks, but that is what it is. So, anyway, I think that pretty much concludes all of the controversies for this particular week. God only knows what next week will bring us, because now we will be talking about, I guess, the wall and DACA again. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Obviously, if you made it this far, thank you as always, and if you do like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Take care, and until next time.